Yo, 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 welcome to episode 7 of the Elite Wrestling Club podcast, where we explore individuals' dreams and the unwavering persistence to achieve them on and off the mat. Hi, I'm your host, Lance Runyon, and I'm thrilled to have you join us for another inspiring episode. In this episode, we will be going behind the scenes on Austin Yant, who is a 3-time NCAA qualifier, a 4-time Iowa State place winner, and a 3-year team captain for UNI. We will share personal stories and valuable insights, and we're excited to bring you a fascinating conversation that will inspire and motivate you to chase your dreams and achieve greatness both on and off the mat. So without further ado, let's welcome Austin Yant and dive into the Elite Wrestling Club podcast world. So first things first, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsor, Allison Schwab Photography, based in the beautiful Cedar Valley. Allison is always up for a trip to bring her skills to clients far and wide. Not only does she provide professional grade photography services, but she does so at an affordable rate, making high quality pictures accessible to everyone. She's also deeply involved in our community with a particular focus on the UNI wrestling team and throughout the season. So each year she lends her talents to capture the exhilarating moments and memorable events that make the season so special. We owe Allison a huge thanks, not just for her support for EWC, but for everything she does for the Cedar Valley community and our team. Her passion and dedication are evident in all she does, and we're truly thankful to have her as a sponsor for this episode. Welcome, Austin. I appreciate you taking the time to join us on the episode today. You've had a long journey as a Panther with a bright future ahead of you in construction and coaching. I'm excited for you, man. Repping the gear, Not an official EWC athlete, but we still hooked you up with some gear.
Yeah, you got the gear out there, so.
Yeah, I got the construction hat and everything.
Tool belt and everything, man. Come on.
Yeah. If you want to support, hit him up. He might have a few left.
I got a whole box full, man.
Maybe not, though.
I need to get rid of
some. So how did you get started in wrestling? What age did you start? What kind of drew you to the sport?
So, actually, Evan wrestled first before me. He was in kindergarten. I was in 3rd grade. And I didn't really know much about wrestling. I just knew, I had a couple friends that wrestled. And my buddy Austin Fife, who actually he played at UNI in basketball. And he just moved to Waverly in 3rd grade. So he's like, hey, you want to play basketball? And I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a try, whatever. I've never done it before, but I'll do it. And so I played basketball. My brother wrestled. And after, Evan's, first wrestled me, and I was like, whoa, this looks way more fun than what I'm doing. And that's no knock to, the guys I was playing with. I mean, they're still some of my best friends to this day, but it just looked different, man. I mean, compared to other sports, I mean, I remember, in soccer, I would, not to, kind of throw up the ego or anything, but, I'd score a lot of goals, and then once I got taken out, everyone else would put their best players in and we'd lose. And so it's I hate this. The team part, it just kind of, at times it was why should I lose when I play well? So that's what I love about wrestling, man. It's so much on you. And so after that season, my parents made me finish it, even though I wanted to quit right in the middle of it and wrestle. They made me finish it, and I wrestled freestyle in 3rd grade, so wrestled every year since then. So just fell in love with the individuality of it and how I have I actually have control on what happens.
So did you quit all those other sports then early and just focus on wrestling?
Oh no,
or did you play?
Yeah, no, I gave up basketball. I still played football, baseball, soccer, wrestled, and there were days where I go from wrestling practice after school to baseball practice at 4 or 5, to the soccer practice at 6:30. So my parents were running me around all around town all summer long. So.
Oh yeah, they were busy for sure.
Absolutely.
Who would you say your biggest inspiration was then at that time?
Well, at that time, we had just won. That would have been 2008. So that was when we were ranked number 2 in the country, our high school team. And I remember watching Eric Thompson put the nail in the coffin on the TV, and it was so cool to watch. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that. And Coach Caldwell actually came to our school 2 weeks later and talked to class about it. And I was just there's something about this dude. I want to wrestle for this guy someday. And so joined wrestling, man. So I'd probably Coach Caldwell until. Actually, even still this day, man, he's still one of my mentors in the sport. But at that age, for sure, probably Coach Caldwell.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Waverly's a pretty special place. Got a big background in wrestling, so I'm sure you had a lot of inspirational people around, people that you looked up to.
Absolutely.
A lot of big names coming out of there. So, I guess I'm just giving you an opportunity to shout out your supporters, family members, anybody else you want to shout out if you want to list them or talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, first and foremost, you gotta be my parents, man. I mean, they drove me and my brother and my sister around all throughout the state of Iowa and the United States to let us do what we want to do, man. I mean, I don't. My parents actually just took their first vacation together last week since they've been married, so it just goes to say
Wow.
how selfless they are, right? I mean, they've never taken time for themselves. So, I mean, pretty blessed to have them as my parents, and Evan, all these years. I mean, he kind of started out and showed me what the thing was about. I mean, obviously to him, and then I mean, Riley had to come along on all those trips and listening to her CD player, to her MP3 players and DSs and Game Boys, and sitting through these
Oh yeah.
8 hour days of wrestling and screaming parents in the gym. But and obviously like my coaches, man. I mean, growing up, I mean, there had so many. It was Ron Cromwee, and there's Coach Caldwell, obviously. There's Lance Woodyard, Bill Thompson. Bill Thompson's my first coach. Eric Thompson's our dad. Uh, coach Myers, my junior high coach. I mean, I had so many high school coaches, Whelan, Barons, Coach Keys, Pierce, all those guys. But I've just been truly blessed. I mean, there's people I'm leaving out, obviously, but I mean, I had a lot of people I've had a lot of people pour into me. So I mean, I've had a pretty legit opportunity to try to be really great at this thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talked about your siblings a little bit. Obviously, you got a brother that wrestles for you and I. What was it like growing up in that household? Were you guys wrestling around a lot, or?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I remember when Midlands would come on the TV and watching the semis and the finals, and we'd start wrestling and trying to just get better at it. Because I mean, you get so hyped up watching college wrestling, man. Because that's kind of the pinnacle for these folk style. I mean, at that time, we
Mm-hmm.
didn't really watch flow wrestling or anything. It wasn't as big as it is now. But watching Midlands and like Big Tens and Nationals on TV, I mean, it fires you up to watch stuff at that level, and then just you're trying to replicate it. Obviously, I mean, you're third, fourth grade kids, and obviously he's 3 years younger than me. So, I mean, we're just wrestling around trying to get better at it. But no, man, it was super fun. I mean, I've really loved the journey I've been on with him. 'Cause, I mean, that's kind of something that my dad wrestled growing up, but it wasn't. I mean, obviously it wasn't to the level we were able to. I mean, it's just kind of a different time, and we've taken this thing pretty far, and it's been pretty fun. 'Cause, I mean, obviously I can pick his brain about things, he can pick my brain about things, and kind of help guide him. So, I mean, obviously, I mean, I'm through with my career, so I mean, I got 6 years of wrestling, just college knowledge alone. I mean, the path and some of the knocks I've taken, and so helping him maybe get through them a little faster than I did. So, no, man, I mean, my greatest wrestling memory in the world is watching him win a state title. Man, it was. I mean, I cried everything. I mean, I'm not a crier really ever, but I mean, it was pretty great to see.
Yeah, it's pretty special. I mean, and especially at a place like you and I, we've always kind of had brothers on the team, and I don't know if you get that everywhere or not, but obviously you want to be with your sibling as much as you can, especially when you're the older one. I feel like,
Yeah.
and then the younger one too, always looking up to you. But yeah, I mean, what's your age gap with your sister?
So Riley's 3 years younger than Evan, so she's 6 years younger than me. She's a senior right now. So
Okay, so it's close. I think I'm like 8 years younger, 8 years older than Lucas. He's 8 years younger than me.
yeah.
So, I mean, he was doing a lot of the stuff that your sister was doing when we were traveling around the
Yeah.
country and stuff too. So, so when did you like cut out all your other sports and just really focus on wrestling?
So I still played baseball until about seventh grade, and then with it kind of bleeding into summer. I mean, seventh grade was actually when Whitcomb ended up getting the job. So I mean, he was running stuff, and that's kind of when you're in junior high, when you start practice with the high school and stuff like that, and having to either come to practice later, leave practice early. Um, I just kind of got old after a while, and wanting to do things at a high level. It's really hard to be. I'll take a Doug word here and just be well rounded about kind of everything you do, and so
Yep.
ended up giving up baseball in seventh grade. And then after eighth grade, gave up soccer. Our head coach ended up taking off, and he coached me since like fifth grade, and didn't really care for the coach that took over. So I kind of just gave the deuces to soccer. And I mean, I played soccer since I could walk, man, and that's a sport I really love, and I still actually really enjoy it to this day. But I ended up kind of getting away from that, and then gave up football after freshman year. So after that, it's just full steam ahead, trying to be great at wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I quit baseball in seventh grade, and then I quit football after sophomore year. I mean, it's just like that summer wrestling stuff. It's intriguing for sure. It's like you always hear the saying, summer is when you get the best.
Oh yeah,
That's where you make your jumps over your competition. So definitely have to start committing at some point. Um, so did you go to a club or was it more just training out of Waverly?
So I mean, we didn't really have much of these clubs, man. I mean, I remember seeing a brochure for like Siebel on the floor at like the state tournament, and or after Corey Clark won his fourth state title, and I mean, kind of wondering like what's this Siebel thing, and then I think the next year saw a bunch of dudes in Superman singlets. So I mean, the club scene wasn't too big. I mean,
Yeah.
I did kind of, I knew like kind of how high altitude was kind of a thing. We did like the trophy hunter thing where we just met at Denver every Friday and just scrapped, which was great, man. I mean, dudes
Okay.
from all over the state would just come over and scrap on a Friday night. It was great. I mean, actual clubs. I mean, my high school club was actually pretty good. I mean, growing up, I mean, we won a lot of kid state titles as a team. I mean, we had a lot of we had surrounding kids coming in too. I mean, I know like Dylan Peters and we had Jordan Rinkin and all those dudes. Like they were kind of Denver. Jordy actually ended up wrestling for us in high school, but I mean, just we kind of had surrounding area dudes that wrestled in our club. And it was pretty great, man. We had a really competitive room growing up.
Was that club like all year or was it just in the summer?
So it was actually mostly during like, I mean, it was probably from November until Kid State, and then we had freestyle that would start the week after the Kid State tournament. So we kind of went year round
Okay.
with it. Fall was kind of our break. We'd have like maybe like two practices a week for a month, and then maybe a couple weeks off, and then it'd be on to your winter. I can call it a cycle, but I mean, when you're a kid, you don't really look at it as a cycle. You just have wrestling practice on Mondays and Thursdays or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just thinking in my head, I didn't really remember much clubs like around here, I guess. I mean, Elite Wrestling Club maybe.
Yeah,
That was in Waverly, right?
yeah.
I mean at Wartburg. And then I do remember Trophy Hunters. I remember hearing that for sure.
I mean,
But
we had
that's pretty cool that that's all.
yeah. There's PWC. I mean, PWC started when I was in like seventh grade, and dude, that club was nuts. I mean, I remember watching like a group of three. It was like Marcus Harrington, Spencer Deerfield, and like Chase Steenhouse. I mean, three state champs in a group of three. And so I mean, getting to watch those kind of scraps. I mean, watching Bryce and Matt Thompson, and I can't remember who the other guy was in the group, but I mean, felt bad for the guy because he's wrestling those two freaking hammers. I mean, it's when you're not wrestling, you get to look around and have some fun. I mean, it's kind of like the college room, right? I mean, you got some good scraps going on when you're not wrestling. You kind of look around a little bit in between breaths, but no, I mean that club was legit. I mean, there's some good spring cycles, summer cycles, and fall cycles with that club, but I mean they kind of cut out sophomore year. I want to say in the fall was when kind of PWC for our age group kind of went away, but it was super fun, man. I mean, that was when I got to really spend time with kind of the high school guys and get to know them. I mean, that's when kind of Bryce kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and just I mean, if you know his personality, man, you just wanna follow the dude and what he does, and he does it at a freaking high level,
Yeah.
and he's an incredible competitor. I mean, one of the best I've ever been around, and I was pretty fortunate to grow up with him in the room pretty much my entire career. So
Yeah, I still love being around him and picking his brain for sure when he comes
oh yeah,
into the room or you know if you just see him around, it's like it's going to be a 20 or 30-minute conversation
oh yeah,
'cause
no for sure. I mean, him and
he's
Andy,
just got a lot of.
yeah, him and his brother Andrew,
Oh
man,
yeah.
I've looked up those dudes a long time. I mean, they everywhere from wrestling or leading our Bible study group with Clint Wickham, and they were what do we call it, grappling for faith. I think I got like a cross here with the thing on it. It'd be actually kind of cool if I could find it, but yeah, no, we used to have a Bible study. We meet at the Tire's house, we meet at Clint's, or just kind of wherever, and it was a good time, man. And really growing and wrestling in my face, so it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started at UNI, it was like Schwarm and Steyer and
Oh yeah, dude.
Jacob and all those older guys. It was more, you know, at one of their houses or whatever,
Mhm.
and it was pretty cool. I definitely like looked up to it right away. It's like, man, I want to be like these guys. So,
Absolutely, man.
do you remember like any tournaments you went to growing up? Did you stay in state or did you guys do a lot of traveling out of state to different national tournaments and stuff? Or
I mean, for me, I mean, we never really traveled too far outside the country. I mean, that's the country, the state. I mean, Evan went to Tulsa a couple times. We didn't really start getting super competitive like that until I was probably in junior high. And like I said, I never really competed outside the state much. I mean, we went to Apple Valley once, and I wrestled like six state champs. It was a nuts tournament, and it was an 8-man bracket. I mean, back then, like the tournament was an 8-man bracket. Like it was a pretty tough tournament. So it was. I mean, it was kind of got stuff like that. But, I mean, we traveled the entire state of Iowa, man. I mean, I've got friends probably in just about every county. I mean, just I could stay somewhere in everywhere in the state. I mean, I've got friends everywhere just from traveling those tournaments. And, you know how it is. And you see the same guys kind of over and over. And
Yeah.
obviously, you try to get away from that at times too to get some different competition. But I mean, I remember my first tournament. It was at Hudson, and I remember I pinned the dude, whatever, my first wrestle match ever, and like came off and like hugged my mom, and she said like it was the hardest hug I've ever given her in my life. I mean, stuff like that. But I mean, tournament wise, I mean, it's just kind of a blur, man. You're traveling with your family, and you know you're wrestling. I mean, I had my Texas Longhorns thing going on. I mean, that's pretty much all I remember. I mean, maybe the state tournament every now and then, you know, hanging out with like Leisure and Zach Barnes and all that stuff, and T. Lara and Braden Curry and Ross Randall. I mean, there's so many guys. I mean, growing up with those dudes, it was a great time, man.
Oh yeah, I was on a few dual teams with some of those guys, and I think Ross went to high altitude a little bit or summer camps or something. So I know him a little bit too. You want to kind of talk about high school a little bit? Just getting into high school and then, you know, going throughout the years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I mean, I was a 6-pounder as a freshman and didn't have to cut very much weight, man. We had a good team, man. I think we were top probably 20 in the country. I mean, we were pretty tough. I think we got third and we scored like 160 points in the state tournament, which is kind of crazy. And we got third, but nah, man, that was that. I would relate that senior group kind of like Max's group for us in college, man. I mean, just kind of growing up. I mean, those dudes were always a lot. They're 3 years older than me, and they just kind of did things in a certain way. And you know, when I got there, I mean, I was only freshman in the lineup. So, I mean, it's kind of you have some big shoes to fill. I mean, we got some good dudes in there. I mean, we had, 3 champs. Spencer didn't win that year, sadly, but he got third and a couple finalists. I mean, we like 7 or 8 place winners. I mean, it was a pretty good group. So I mean, it just really learning how I'm going to win at the high school level and really learn who I was as a wrestler. Kind of, I mean, kind of like the same thing goes for college wise. Obviously, college level is a little different than Iowa high school, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, I had a lot of fun. I just remember kind of, I don't know about, I wouldn't say I was smiling a lot, but I just remember just really getting excited for my team and just getting in some intense duels that were a lot of fun. So, no, freshman year was a good time. Ended up getting 7th.
Did you go to Cheesehead that year?
Yeah, I got 14th. I lost to Yaya Thomas by 1 point for in the 13th and 14th
Oh wow.
match. So I mean, the bracket was crazy. I remember looking at it and there's like 4 Fargo champs in it or something. Like I think Austin O'Connor won it, and dude, it was crazy. Looking back now, like I think there's like 71 dudes in it. So I mean, it was a pretty legit bracket.
Oh yeah.
But no, I did. It was,
and it was probably loaded back then with teams too.
Oh yeah, I mean it was. I mean, it was one. I mean, like you know how Cheesehead is, like that first, like there's like that first leg, and then you go in like the pool play. If not, you're in like the lower 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I remember having that first match, and like it was like for team points, we're trying to win the tournament, and team points trying to win that first match and winning that, and just my freshman year, dude. I mean, I had like 60 something matches. I mean, I was like 44. I had 60 matches, I think, 44 and 16, I think. So just, I mean, we competed a lot, and especially when you're on the backside a lot like I was. So.
That's nuts. I mean, 60 matches. I think I don't even know what I was. Like I had like 40, I think, my senior year.
Really?
But yeah.
No, I'm even like my senior year. I was like 52 and 2. So I mean, we wrestled a lot of matches.
Yeah, that's a lot. But what were your guys' duels like? I mean, did you have just one team, or was it always multiple?
Yeah, so I mean, for our duels, we did some dual tournaments. I mean, obviously at the battle, and we won that my freshman year, which was a whole lot of fun. I mean, obviously we had duels during the week. We had some Tuesday duels, which I wasn't cutting too much weight back then for that year, so that wasn't too terrible. But I remember, you know, we had some Tuesday duels. Dual tournaments, we didn't really have too many. I mean, I don't even think we started our Waverly dual team tournament. No, we had it that year. No, we did have it that year. So we had the Waverly dual team tournament. We had battle. Other than that, not too many dual team tournaments, sadly. But like individual tournaments, a lot. I mean, just about every weekend. I mean, we got the Ames tournament. We had the Valley tournament. That's at Valley or Johnston. Geneseo, Illinois, which is a pretty tough tournament. I mean, it all kind of blurs together. But I mean, just we wrestled a lot. I mean, obviously 60 matches is quite a bit, especially when we wrestled like 25 in a college year. So I mean, It's like 3 years
Yeah.
in 1 year. So
It's nuts.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, you got kids that wrestle 100 matches as little kids right now, and then it's like they get to high school, it's like half that, and then to college, it's even half that. It's
yeah,
like crazy how much kids are competing these days. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you said you took seventh. You want to talk about your first, your freshman year state tournament a little bit? Kind of, what opened your eyes? What really motivated you for that next year?
Yeah, no, I mean, I lost in overtime my first match. I remember I hit like a high crotch in overtime, had a bottom leg and put the dude on his back, and I didn't get a takedown. And we got in, like the scramble and ADCL two out of nowhere, and I'm just like, no way, like, because where I was in the bracket, man, like if I like winning that, like I was one of those where I mean, Wags on the other side, and or Baker and Wags on the other side, so I was like, oh dude, I can make the finals. And I mean, I'll see T. Lara in the semis, and we had like a barn burner at the Go Hawk Duels that year. It was like 15-14 or something. And it's like, all right, like I'll have that dude over. I'll take that dude in the semis over Wags or Baker any day. And so I ended up losing the first round, so kind of shattered that dream. But I mean, won back and got done. And I remember I just like, obviously I want more. I mean, I got teammates that wrestle Saturday night, and no one goes to high school wrestling and is like, oh, I want to take seventh, and that's it. So obviously the next year I want to go win a title. And I thought I could do it. I mean, leading up to that, I mean, I went 13 the next year, and I mean, shoot, dude, I cut way too much weight that year, that's for sure. I mean, if I could go back and change it, I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't go 113 without a doubt. But
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, would you end at 52?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it's like 106. I was expecting, I mean, I guess I know, but I would at least expect 120 or 126. It's like, I guarantee you had a lot of growth in that year, and then to shrink your body back down to 13.
I probably did some bad stuff to my body honestly that year. I mean, I did cut a lot of weight. I mean, obviously it's kind of something about everyone goes through unless you're really good at a young age, which I wasn't. I was just kind of tough, and if I could be a little bit bigger than dudes. I mean, I was like 5'8" at 113, so wrestling on a knee because I was so freaking long. So
Yeah.
no, I mean, that was one of those years where the weight cut became kind of like this workout's 3 pounds or this workout's 2 pounds. Like instead of I'm gonna work
Yeah.
on this skill and this skill. So it definitely probably started my growth as a wrestler overall, and kind of drove my joy away from it because I was so focused on making weight and winning matches. And I think I was like 43-15 that year. So I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of growth in kind of how I like in matches won. But I mean, I got six, and I mean, I was actually beating T-Bird in the semis, freaking jerk, and he like carries me my back in the third period like twice. So I ended up losing like 11-5 or something. So he hit 2 5-point moves, and so he ended up going to the finals. But no, I mean, being teammates with that dude's been what was really fun too. But I mean, just I remember getting carried my back, and I'm like 6 pounds over for the next day, and Baker ends up jumping over me in the Conti semis with like 2 seconds left to beat me by one, and then I stepped over a Wizard versus Zane Mulder when I was up 4 and freaking gave up a 5-point move. He held me on my back for like a minute and a half, and so just had a terrible last leg of the state tournament. I mean, I got done with that last match, and I had this Mountain Dew in my cooler. You get your coolers when you're in high school. I mean, that's kind of you gotta have a cool cooler and stuff like that. So reaching my cooler,
yeah.
grab my liter of Mountain Dew, and go wait in the ice cream line, and kind of feel sorry for myself for a little bit. But I think I went to bed that night like 136. I was
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, weighed in at like 4 for scratch, like 116.8 or something. I went like to bed at like 135, so it was I was hurting for a little bit, but it was all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about how much the state tournament has changed since then.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like now it's seeded. I mean, I remember, I think it was my senior year, might have been the first year that it was seeded. And then, now they're adding like 8 more people to the bracket or something,
yeah,
switching up districts. It's kind of crazy to think that, back then it wasn't seeded. I mean, you could have maybe they paired at 1 and 4, 2 and 3
hmm
in your districts, but it was like second round you could have had, I mean, depending on how you did in your district, it was like crazy the matchups that were had in the first and second round at state.
oh yeah,
And then I mean, you're talking about, you know, 13, 14, 15 losses in a season, but those are some high quality losses.
oh yeah. I mean,
It's like how many of those guys were state champs or state placers or now Division 1 wrestlers, or it's crazy to think back. It's like man, 15 losses back then. I was shitting on myself, but
Yeah.
now I'm sitting here like, shoot, all those guys are D1 or won a national title or whatever it is. It's like, I mean, Zay Mulder, national title this year at Wartburg.
Yeah.
T-Bird, obviously, freaking
2-time champ, man.
tough as nails. Wags and Brendan Baker. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, no, man. I mean, it kind of set me up a little bit. I mean, I still cut a lot of weight to 32 the next year. I mean, was a little better at it, but I mean, it was still a lot, and probably shouldn't have went that way to begin with. But second, couldn't clear a wrist tie. Stocks was tied up my wrist and lost 3-2, and just, I mean, I didn't do much either. I mean, I got some attacks, but I mean, I just remember the best I'd ever felt for a match and losing it. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Mentally, it's like I don't have to feel good to win. So, I mean, getting second that year it sucked. I mean, I got to wrestle in the finals, but I mean, no one wants to wrestle in the finals to get second. It sucks. Which pole vault me the next year, man. I mean, that next following year, my senior year, I refused to cut any weight. I mean, half the time I'd go into practice like 2 pounds over and leave like 3.5 unders. I go to B-dubs with some buddies, and we get like a full order of wings and some lemonades, and I'd wake up like a pound over, work it off in the morning, and then have breakfast and drift it. And senior year was so fun, man. It really brought back some love for wrestling for me, which was really big, especially to put me in a position to wrestle at the next level. And I just remember, I didn't really get recruited very much, especially my senior year, like before the season. And I was going on this deer hunting trip, and I think it was Gert, T-Bird, Derek Hochschlag, Ricky, and Zach Barnes. They're all at a visit UNI, and I'm like, damn, I want to be on that visit. I gotta start winning some freaking matches, man. I gotta get some interest. I don't know. I love hunting, but I wanna be wrestling at the next level, man. And so, I mean, I just remember kind of that whole year, just kind of I want to put points. I want to stick out. I want to obviously win a state title. I mean, we knew that Nelson was gonna be a 52 too. So, I mean, I beat that dude. Like, I'm gonna be wanted by some D1 schools. Obviously, I mean, he's ranked whatever in the country, and just was looking forward to wrestling him. And he actually beat me up at that North tournament. I think he took me down 8 times, and he singled me probably 7 times. Just didn't make the adjustment right away, but I just remember after that match, man, I was ready for that next one. And tell you what, that was probably one of the most fun semis matches I've probably watched. I had to watch it over, obviously, but it was fun. I mean, obviously I didn't win it my senior year. I mean, lost to Nelson in the semis, but coming back on the backside, I think I won every match by a point. Just had to kind of gotten some classic Austin Yant matches where he just kind of hung on or ended up scoring late.
Had to get a little gritty too. I mean, it sucks losing in the semis too. I mean, you talk about getting second, but then you're like one match from the finals. I mean,
yeah,
your dreams are right there.
Yeah, it was one of those, man, where it just didn't work out how I wanted to. Obviously, I mean, we've all had those moments, and I didn't even check my weight. I went to Pita Pit with one of my buddies, got like 2 pitas and like drank 3 drinks, stepped on the scale, and I was like a pound over, and I'm like, well, that's freaking, like, looking back, like 113 Austin been killed for this, but it was great.
Yeah.
Woke up with like 2 pounds under, had breakfast. I mean, you know how that is, and I finished the day out and got third, and it was whatever, and really still didn't plan on wrestling in college. And I think coming back like a couple weeks later, coach called, like, hey, we have practice, and you should come. Ended up wrestling, just kept wrestling, got asked to do some duels, like the all-star duel in Charles City, and then got asked to do like the War at West Gym, and did those and won, and like, I'll be focused on nationals, whatever, screw it. And I planned on going 52, and I was kind of getting a little bigger. I mean, I think I was growing a little bit still, and ended up waking up day of folk style nationals, and I was like 3 pounds over. And so our scale, like, that's a classic like scale you get from like Walmart or something, but sometimes it's dead nuts on.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes it's like a pound and a half over what it's saying. And so that night it said I was a pound and a half over, and I woke up and I was still a pound and a half over, but I knew I was actually a pound and a half over that morning. And I remember my dad's like, well, better get running. And I'm like, nah. Because the last summer before, my buddy Zach Barnes actually AA'd being like 2/10 over at 45 and AA'd at 52. So I was like, okay, if he can do that, I can do this at 60 or whatever. So ended up weighing in at like 159 that morning. Had a good breakfast, drank some water, and ended up winning folk style nationals, which kind of really catapulted me into the college wrestling thing. I mean, after that, I remember waking up that next day and my best friend growing up, Jordan Chandler, I was in his basement, and you don't get phone service down there, so I just had my phone upstairs. He came down and waked me up. He's like, dude, your phone's been ringing. It's ringing off the table like twice. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, I don't know if my mom like didn't know I was coming over here or what. And I had a bunch of different area codes calling me, and I was like, well, this is pretty cool. So
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, knowing that senior year really solidified your spot and what you wanted to do in your future, you know.
yeah,
And I mean, I was just thinking about your jump. You went 6, 13, 32, 52. It's pretty similar to mine, but I started at 13, so I went 13, 32, 52, 52.
yeah,
And my senior year, I cut a lot of weight, but that junior year, I didn't cut much either. Um, but yeah, I remember you winning that folk style nationals tournament, and then I saw you committed to UNI. If you want to talk a little bit about why you chose UNI, I mean, I know your story a little bit, you know, growing up wanting to be a Panther, but if you want to just talk about that a little bit.
no, absolutely. I mean, actually, my first wrestling camp was Doug, Mark, and Mike Schwab, so the three brothers, and it was actually right when Doug got the job. And I've never been a Hawkeye fan. My whole family's a Hawkeye fan. And obviously, I was bred to hate Iowa State, so I was just kind of always like, I mean, UNI's right there. I mean, my grandparents had UNI football tickets growing up for the Dome and stuff. So I mean, I was kind of more of a Panther fan than anything. I mean, I'm a Texas Longhorn fan for football. So I mean, everyone knows that one, right? I mean, hook 'em. But
Oh yeah.
uh, no, I mean, I never really pictured myself wrestling anywhere else. I mean, obviously, you kind of every now and then like, oh, I could wrestle at Iowa or wrestle at Oklahoma State or Penn State was kind of when Penn State was kind of starting to get going. And uh, obviously, you had like those living room battles, right? Where I mean, Oklahoma State and stuff like that. And
Yep.
not bad. I wanted to wrestle for Doug really bad. I mean, I remember after, and I think it was that morning that I was talking about at my buddy's house, and Doug texted me. He's like, we're gonna need a home visit with you soon. And I was like, all right, there we go. And like it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, yeah, this is probably where I'm gonna go. But no, man. I mean, I one of my unofficial and just I was still really unsure if I wanted to wrestle or not. I mean, I remember having a conversation with Roper when we were walking around campus, and he's like, he's he's talking about my leg rider or something. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm a leg rider. Just kind of, I don't really know much. I didn't really know many turns from legs. I mean, I thought I did. I just did to ride people. I mean, keep them down. And he's like, no, like leg riders are good. And I'm like, huh, all right, whatever. And maybe he's probably right. So maybe I am pretty good on top. I don't know. I can be eventually. And I had like a similar conversation with Doug about how like I like the crackdown finish, like coming with my feet. I'm like, oh, I'm probably just lazy. He's like, no, that's just a different way to finish. Like, so this really sparked my interest in kind of their views of wrestling, just compared to what I had, right? And
Yep.
I mean, I got recruited other places too, but I mean, when it came down to it, I remember Randy's like, "You want to come here or what?" And I'm like, I'm definitely see myself and doing it. And I remember like 5 minutes into my sit down with the coaches, because obviously you have your visit, right? And then you sit down with the coaches and kind of talk about like what you like about the visit. And I mean, talk about some scholarship stuff if that's in the picture and stuff like that. And I think 2 minutes in, Doug just like pops the top, so he's just sitting there shirtless. And so I'm like, well, he's comfortable with me,
Classic.
man. So I mean, uh, remember just when we first started talking in that room, just kind of how Roper was talking to me, and just I actually Roper did a camp for us my freshman year of high school, and I just remember him talking about how like live was like a treat, like you didn't get to do it every day, and just how he looked at things. So I obviously like my entire high school career, I was really intrigued by him, and like that was when he had Compound going, how it was, and then found out he was at UNI, and obviously I got Doug up there. I've wanted to wrestle for that dude ever since the beginning, so I mean it just kind of seems why not, you know, and knowing Randy and B Rob growing up too. I mean B Rob being on the team Iowa all the years I was going to Fargo and stuff and being around him. I mean,
Yep.
in the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's the greatest place I could have chose. I mean, Doug told me in that room, he's like, this is where you become a man. I mean, this is where you're gonna find your best friends in the world, and this is where you become a man. And that's the biggest choice you have for this college thing. It's not just wrestling; it's where you decide to become a man and the environment you put yourself in. And I mean, it's the greatest decision I could have made. I mean, I'd make it every single time, even if I would have won 4 state titles undefeated. Like if I go back, I'd still come here. I mean, it is great.
Yeah, that's just awesome to hear you talking about too. I mean, always wanting to grow up as a Panther is pretty cool. I mean, I had a similar similar thing. It wasn't necessarily, I didn't really have a school pinpointed, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it wasn't Iowa, it wasn't Iowa State. But it's like, damn, you and I reached out to me.
Mhm.
Definitely want to go there. It was like right away.
Yeah.
But I mean, growing up around here and being around all those guys, I think talking about like B Rob being on Team Iowa, I think that's definitely huge. Having a guy like B Rob,
Absolutely.
being around and at practices and stuff. It's cool, especially when you show some interest and it's like, dude, I got your back, whatever you need.
Yeah.
So, I mean, talk about your college career a little bit now. Your redshirt year, what you were bulking up a little bit, weren't you?
Yeah. So I mean, that first year I was a 65 pounder, and I mean, I just kind of doing normal, probably true freshman things. You just kind of figure out like, I mean, you're 18 years old. I mean, you're not. I mean, I'm only 20 minutes from home. I mean, I can't really say I'm on my own, but I mean, you're on your own somewhat, living in the dorms. I mean,
Yeah.
Ricky's my roommate, and I mean, just running around with like Carter Roeder and Pat Schoenfelder and Scuds, and just kind of really, just bonding with those guys, man. I mean, just trial by fire, just getting the crap beat out of us every day, and shoot, man. I mean, I didn't get many takedowns that first year. I mean, wrestling Taylor Lujan, Jacob Hochschlag, and Fred Steyer, and all those dudes, man, just some absolute killers. And you Plato in there too. I mean, yeah, I got beat up a lot. Logan Ryan, like those dudes are just hammers, and just every now and then maybe get one score, and then that was the worst thing you could have done. Now you're gonna get beat 10 times worse than you were to get beat. I mean, just a lot of growth, man. And I remember kind of not really getting off the path, but just one of those where there's kind of this point I feel like in everyone's kind of true freshman year where it's like, am I about really trying to really do this thing, or am I gonna kind of just be a part of the team? Not that that's a bad thing by all means. I mean, I've seen guys go through that and they're 100% cool with that, but I mean that's just kind of not who I am. So um, really kind of figuring out who I was. I mean, I think it was once we got done competing as true freshmen where I kind of really started diving in, doing as many individuals as I could. And, even leading up after that first year was kind of whatever. I mean, it was a good growth year for me just as a person, and obviously wrestling too. But they wanted me to get up to 84, so I had that whole next summer, I trying to lift, and I didn't do a very good job staying disciplined on that. I had this job, and I'd work just some weird hours. Now I'd work like 2 a.m. to like 11 a.m. Then go to practice and sometimes go back to work. Just got in a really bad routine and just kind of got lax my lifts. I didn't really get as big as I needed to get. And obviously, I mean, having talks with coaches and stuff, and being lax on them, and obviously, I mean, they chewed my ass for it, and as they should. I mean, I did a terrible job of it. But really, I didn't really fully jump off the cliff until probably that next February of that redshirt year when I was at 74. I mean, I was behind Taylor. So, I mean, that dude's insane. He's like fifth in the country at the time. So I mean, not where I was at the time to even come close to even trying to get a takedown at will. I mean, I remember we had there's some wrestle offs at a few weights, and Albert kept saying like, "Yo, where's the Yant wrestle off?" Just to kind of give guff at Lujan. And I think we did like a match that day for those guys that are going to Big 12s, and you could have given me a shotgun, man. I wouldn't be able to touch Taylor, man. He just beat me up. Like I think he headlocked me and didn't even like hold on to it. Just hit it and let me fly. Just one of those beatings. And I look over at Roper. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, dude, I don't think anyone in the country can stop him right now. And I'm like, well, that makes me feel a little better. But
Yeah.
no, I had a
I
really
love watching him scrap in the ring
gosh,
for sure.
it is watching him and Hog scrap. I remember there's at homecoming actually when Hog towards ACL, but it was Taylor, Hog, and Doc in a group of three. Just I mean, it's a nuts group to watch. But no, I think I really committed that. Me, Roper met at Pita Pit in February of that year. He was kind of telling me about the path I was going on and where I'd go if I kept doing it. And it was kind of one of those where you're gonna have a mediocre career. I mean, you'll be lucky to start and things like that. And I'm like sitting here and I'm like, well, that's not what I want to do. And he's like, or you could do this. And he's just talking about how I could really just double down and really go after this thing. Kind of quit looking over and dip my toe in the pool and just dive through the son of a bitch. So just kind of gave everything I could to it. At least I like to think so. I mean, obviously you can always do things better, but um, I mean, that's just kind of when things were different. I remember walking out those doors and it's just that next practice was different, and just how I approached things were different from there on. I mean, I went from kind of being because that year I warmed up Drew a lot, and so that was pretty cool getting to go on all the trips and kind of see those guys and what they do day of match, and even weighing in and kind of getting ready, even though obviously I wasn't gonna wrestle. I mean, just kind of getting those reps in mentally, and that was pretty big for my growth. And that next year finally getting to start. I mean, I did a whole summer of breathing squats. Wake up at 4:30 in the morning. There's a good group of us that were doing it, but dude, that summer I got super strong. I got up to like 189 and was kind of getting bigger. And then Lujan's like, hey dude, I'm gonna go up to the 84, and I'm like, good, because 84 was gonna suck for me, because it'd been one of those where I was gonna have to be chugging milk probably about every day to stay above 184. And then
Yeah.
and then came about homecoming, and I'm probably a decent size setting football. I mean, I would have been 65 would have been perfect for me, and Bryce ended up going up 74, so it worked out for the best for sure. So I ended up going 65, and I remember we went on a team run kind of that first week, a team like a cycle, and then we went on a run like the last day of the cycle when I was 65 pounder. I'm like, oh, this is so much easier, and just feeling way better. And so wrestling 65 kind of that first year and being in the lineup. And I remember actually me and Roper kind of talked about this at the national tournament this year, where I kind of looked around. I'm like, how did I get here? Like, I mean, at the time I think we were preseason like third in the country or something. I mean, we were a good freaking team, man, and I'm a starting guy for this. It's kind of one of those where, all right, I guess I'm fooled enough to let me kind of try this out. And kind of having like a decent year. I think I was like one win over 500. Didn't qualify for nationals, but man, I did learn a ton, and just kind of how I was gonna win, right? I mean, Matt returned the heck out of dudes and just not getting taken down and winning matches, 2-0, 3-1, 2-1, and just finding a way. But I mean, there's a lot of growth in that one too. I mean, that would have been your guys' redshirt freshman year, right? You and Parker. That was your nationals got canceled. That would have been your guys' true freshman year.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you got you guys coming in too for partners, and I mean, just that's where I turned the corner. I think mentally for sure for what I can kind of do. I mean, it's kind of like a magnifying glass, right? You kind of you zoom in with each more you grow, right? I mean, your high crotch goes from a high crotch to, okay, what's my set to my high crotch, what's my left hand, what's my right hand doing. But that was more of a confidence thing for me, like what I'm able to do competitively. And then so kind of moving on to that, I mean, COVID happened, nationals getting stopped, and all of a sudden we can't be in the wrestling room, so we're wrestling in your guys' garage. And that was pretty cool. It sucked, don't get me wrong, because wrestling in that garage with that like heating element that's like 5 feet above the mat, and you hit your head on it, and you're dodging the push mower over there on the side. But it's very blue collar, and that's kind of our MO at UNI. I mean, we got what we need, and we got a wrestle mat, and we got a roof over our head, so we can't get rained on. Like, that's all you need. And so getting better in that freaking that garage, and I framed all summer, so I was super tan. I got sun poisoning like twice, but just especially figuring out a lot about yourself during that, man. I mean, the world shut down, and you're wrestling with, I mean, the same 4 dudes for 8 weeks in the summer. And so I definitely think that kind of catapulted me into that year, but I ended up freaking hurting my knees, both of them. I like MCL on my right knee, and then that MCL on my left knee, and then breaking out with mat herpes like the day of. I mean, just having a lot of bad luck. I mean, I wrestled one match for the Big 12 tournament that year, and got fifth. And
yeah, I remember that. It was like bang bang. I mean, you were like, man, this sucks. It's just doing a lot of PT and stuff. I mean, everything you can do.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, there was actually a pretty pivotal moment. It was before I hurt my left knee, and I wasn't before I hurt my right knee. So I hurt my left knee first, and my right knee. And I went to throw a boot in on Parker, and he like jumped into it, and like the side of my foot caught, my knee just like popped, and I just snapped my earphone in my ear. My like right knee popped, and I couldn't stand up, and freaking yelling, and just I'm crawling in the weight room, and I got this like why me look, right? I didn't say it, and Roper comes through that door, and he's like, you can't even think about it. He's like, you can't even just jump at me about it almost, right? And in the moment, you're like, screw you, dude. Like, I just hurt my knee again. Like, at this point, like, I don't know how bad it is. Like, what if my season's done, right? And I put on this work, and why me, and just deleted that out of my freaking mind right away. And I needed it, man. I did need it. Sorry, my freaking battery's at like 20%, but just thinking,
Oh, you're
just
good.
thinking why me, and that instant, man, I couldn't think about it anymore. And I sat next to Troy, and I'm like, okay, what can I do to get better right now? And so obviously I iced it and got all the way back, and won 2 matches in wrestle out to get the wrestle at Big 12s and end up going to nationals. And you know, that was another really big growth thing where I'm in the same room as those dudes that are winning national titles and seeing what they're doing. Like, okay, like I thought I could win a national title, but now like there's levels to thinking that, right? I mean, you know how that's like. I mean, you think you're the freaking man, and then you're around some dudes that are the freaking man. And you're like, oh, dude, I'm not even close, but I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
And so I mean that was in St. Louis is awesome. Obviously, there's hardly any fans, but I mean it's still wrestling, and I kept growing every year. I like to think. I mean, that year got better, and then kind of catapulting us into that next year. I mean, shoot, man, being 65 again, and we winning some duels, and beating Oklahoma State at home and Oklahoma, and just remember that Oklahoma State match, man. That was probably where I really started believing myself, as like an All American caliber, where like I'm legit. Like we wrestled this national tournament 10 times, like I can place in it at least 5 of them, right? Beat
Yeah.
Whit Lake. I mean, that dude beat me up freaking probably 4 times before that, but end up getting it done finally, right? And being gritty and riding him for a whole third period at Gallagher, and then Lance Runyon getting the pin while I'm cutting weight. I see the crowd go, ugh, and I'm like, that was a whistle and a gasp. Run over there, and Roper's like, pinned him in a Trella, and I'm like, no way. And Doug's like, it's quiet, I freaking love it. For holding that whole week, he's like, I want to silence the crowd, right? And then Parker goes out there and commits assault versus Dakota Gear and majors in, beats him up, and we end up winning the duel with Tyrell freaking waving the crowd as they're all walking out. And I mean, that's probably one of my fondest memories as a team, man. I mean, I remember all of us on the side of the mat just cheering on Tyrell before Tyrell really became Tyrone. That was such a fun trip. I mean, I remember just being amped until like 1 in the morning. Cause I remember rooming with Pat Schoenfelder in the hotel, and we're just talking till like 1 in the morning because we can't sleep and we're still fired up. And beating Oklahoma the next day and moving on to the Big 12s later on that year. And you getting what I get. I think I got third. Ended up losing the Hall from West Virginia in the semis. Never got to beat that dude, sadly. But getting third there, and then going to nationals again and losing in the round of 16, and really being upset. Just now with kind of just with knowing that I could do more. It wasn't one of those where I didn't think I could be there. I knew I could be there, and that's probably what pissed me off the most. Like I'm more than capable of being on the stand. I mean, I'm losing this dude in overtime at one point, and he's getting 7th place, and so stuff like that. I mean, just knowing I deserve to be in the conversation, right, and getting that COVID year to come back, and so I mean, really, this last year, man, it was a lot more mental than I thought it'd be. I mean, all through this, I mean, you kind of gravitate towards the coach when you're here. I mean, how it is, but just kind of explain it for other people here. I mean, you gravitate to like an individual coach, and I really gravitated to Roper really right away. Yep. And I've really not talked about any coaches, which is really selfish of me. And without them, I mean, obviously I wouldn't be anywhere close, but Roper really helped me a lot, man, especially through all my 6 years, and just really being my guy and just talking me through and just really holding me accountable to my goals, man. I mean, the worst thing you can do is tell that man your goals, or the best thing you can do is tell that man your goals. He's going to hold you to them. Whether you're having a good day, a bad day, whether your dog just died, whatever, he doesn't care. He's going to hold you to his goals because we set those goals, right? And at the end of the day, when your career's over, like, you don't want to regret anything. And I'm just super, super blessed to have that man in my life. And then having guys around, like, obviously, like Doug, I mean, that dude, I'll run through a brick wall for that dude. I mean, especially those pre-practice speeches, man. I mean, I'm ready to go. I mean, screw the dodgeball games. I mean, I'm ready to go right now.
I know, right?
But and then just Randy keeping the mood light always. I mean, he gets to do a lot with Randy outside the room. But and then I mean, B-Rob kind of my other corner man, and getting a scrap and roll with him a lot, and just another selfless man, dude. I mean, just being there for. I mean, I know that dude will be there for me for the rest of my life. As will all the coaches, man. But just like we're super blessed with what we've had for leadership. I mean, you know how it is, but definitely going in this last year, I had a lot of things I kind of put off in my mind, which I thought I put off, but they weren't off. It was one of those where you got to develop a good relationship with your subconscious, and that's something I got from, I can't remember what Huberman podcast it was, but you got to keep a good relationship with your subconscious, and journaling, putting your phone down and thinking about things you're doing, and talking to people you actually really believe in what they're saying and are close to you and can they know you pretty well. And shoot, man, I ended January / February, man, I was in a dark place, just for some reason doubting my ability, and I'm wrestling the best I've ever wrestled at this point in my career, and I'm doubting myself for some reason, which looking back seems super silly, but it was so real, man. And I don't know where it came from. It's just from not having a good relationship with my subconscious and not staying up with my journals. And I mean, Roper really put it in a way that makes sense to me. It's kind of when you don't develop that relationship with your subconscious, you don't know if the waves are if it's gonna be calm out or if the waves are gonna be 20-foot high. And that's where the journal and the taking time to reflect about your day really comes into play. And you can try to bullshit doing it, but I mean, unless you're really doing it, I mean, it's easy to tell if you're doing it or not. And I wasn't doing it, obviously, and really happy I got that figured out. So we're kind of letting go of the ego and then wanting to win too hard, and that's where really what I got to at the end. And Big 12s and nationals, just letting it fly, man. And just there's one thing I don't regret in this world, it's how I competed at the end. I mean, obviously you can make technical fixes always, and it was just a stupid decision to do this and that, but letting her fly and losing in the blood round, it sucks, man. I mean, looking back at it, I mean, it just freaking sucks. I mean, my whole career, I wanted to be more than just a guy that was in the blood round. I mean, I wanted to be like a multi-time All-American national champ, right? I mean, that's what we're trained for. But I mean, you can't always get what you want.
Yep.
I mean, it's not fair. I wouldn't trade anything for it. I mean, losing in the blood round and having like the clock tick down on your career, man. It's a humbling thing for sure. I mean, looking over in the corner and B-Rob, Roper, and Frank the Tank Baker looking at me, just kind of got tears in their eyes, and just one of those, or get off the mat and it's over with. And having some good talks with some coaches, obviously, and loving them to death. I mean, they've just given their entire lives is dedicated to seeing us succeed. So, I mean, that chapter in your career closes. It kind of sucks, but I mean, I don't regret anything, and that was one thing that was nice. I remember go back to the hotel room and kind of looking in the mirror, and I don't know how often you look in the mirror at yourself or anything, but I don't really look in the mirror. I don't really look at myself. Like it's like, oh, how's my beard look or my hair, right? Like I don't really look at my eyes and stuff and like really reflect on like how I am with it, like how I feel about myself like that, in that way. And I was pretty cool with it. So I mean, got to warm up Parker the next day for the finals, which is cool, and hang out with you and all the guys. And I remember sitting there after I got done wrestling, and I was kind of a little bit, but not very much. And I remember Budo was just sitting there, and he's just looked really sad. And I'm like, "What's up, Budo?" And he's like, "I'm gonna miss you, man." And I'm like, "Damn, dude, I just got done kind of tearing up, and now you're gonna make me do this again." And so, I mean, it just goes to show what kind of culture we have, man. I mean, this dude, his tournament's been done for a day. I mean, he's probably thinking about what he's gonna eat at dinner at night, and he's in tears for my career, man, and just love the culture that we have. I mean, especially coming in with Jacob Hochschlag and Max and Bryce and Schwarm and all those guys that kind of you talked about, man, like the culture where it was and where it's got to now. And that's another thing I'm really proud of with my career is kind of where the culture is now. I mean, we're all super, super close, and we do a lot of things together outside the room. And I think that's really gonna help propel us into that next step as a team.
Yeah, I mean, just a few things even I wrote down. I mean, I think the listeners will definitely have to rewind and listen to that again. I mean, that's just awesome. I mean, you talked about just making the choice, like when you first come in, it's almost like a choice, and maybe you're being led down the wrong path, maybe you're picking the right one, but you got a coach there to pick you up, and show you the way. And then, I mean, just your perspective, and that's what I underlined, because it's like even at the end of your career, the perspective started with the injuries. It's like feeling sorry for yourself and stuff, and then your perspective at the end is like being grateful for everything, no matter what. You didn't accomplish your goals that you had for yourself, but you gave it your all, and that's really all you can do.
Yep.
I mean, you think about your progress and everything like that, and then just being so close as a team. I mean, it's a really cool culture, like you said, and I mean, it just brings me back to just thinking about wrestling in the garage, like you talked about. It's like when you think about our culture, the coaches and the people we have surrounding our program, it's like, dude, we would wrestle in a garage every day if we had to. Like,
Yep.
We don't need the room. We don't need it all. We got each other, and that's really all we need. And that's cool to hear you talk about.
Yeah, man. I mean, and you talk about like kind of going back to what Doug said, right? I mean, you develop your best friends in the world here. I mean, dude, I remember looking at the lineup, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna beat Taylor Lujan while I'm here, and like this and that, and I met Taylor like on my visit, and I mean, I was in the dude's wedding this last summer, and just the culture that we built, like we're all so close, man. I mean, Jacob Hochschlag, I mean, he's Derek's brother, and Derek's my roommate, and one of my best friends, right? So, I mean, we're hanging out with those guys all the time, and just the amount that, like, especially like Jacob and Lujan, and especially those two, man, they've poured a lot in my wrestling career. Talk about coaches that non-coaches that had a big impact in my career, man. Those two, I mean, Jacob leg rider, right, went in gritty ways, but and then Lujan, man, I mean, I've been practicing one more than I practiced with that man, dude. I mean, there was a 3 month spread where I probably hit freaking 3,000 knee pulls, and he hit 3,000 probably sweep singles. I mean, just wrestling just about every day with each other, man, and just you develop a very unique bond. It's a bond that you can only achieve via fire, I think, where kind of that fire brings out the impurities in the gold, right? And that's what I think really has built the team the way it is now. I mean, we've been through a lot of trials together, and we've had a lot of we have had setbacks like a lot like any other team has, right? But I mean, just where we are as a culture, man. I mean, everyone talks about it. That's in the circle, obviously, but just for people that are outside it, I mean, that's something that we don't take lightly. And not that it's more it's more important than winning, obviously, because a good culture creates winning. And so, I mean, obviously, what we're trying to do is win everything that we can, but it starts with that
Yep.
culture, man. And I've just been super blessed to have the people along the way that I have, for sure.
I mean, just a couple more questions. What is one piece of advice you'd give to young wrestlers? I mean, now, 6 years of college, through high school, growing up.
Yeah, no,
What
man,
do you think that'd be?
just focusing on kind of developing your skills, really knowing your wrestling. I mean, that's one thing that helped me a lot, and not necessarily coming in with a coach, just coming in with a buddy, a group of guys without a coach, and learning your wrestling and really picking your brain, because that's how you learn things faster. I mean, there's all things that our coaching staff preaches, especially rope. I mean, come in and learn your wrestling, man. Learn your layers to how you do things, because how I do things is different to you than how you do things is different how Parker does it, which is different how Vern does it, right? I mean, just we all do things really differently, and just really learn how you do things, and then just execute it really well. Because then when your troubleshoot system comes faster, and you know how to wrestle in certain positions and other people don't. You can really run circles around people and really make them vulnerable. It's kind of fun too, man.
Yeah, for
Gotta enjoy
sure.
it.
Yep, definitely gotta enjoy it. Um, you want to talk about your hobbies a little bit, and then your plan here in the next what month now?
Yeah, 2 weeks, man. No, some hobbies. I mean, I got a dog. He's doing short hair. Hank. He turns 5 in October, so got that. I hunt, fish, um, play some disc golf. I'm playing a lot of disc golf this last couple months, and getting pretty decent at it. But gotta become an adult soon, so I don't know how much I'll be playing. But now, I mean, hanging out with the guys, man. I mean,
There'll
that's
be plenty of places.
well, yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we'll have to see. I mean, I imagine Montana's got some cool courses, but nah, man, just being around the guys, man. There's obviously friend groups on the wrestling team, and I'm a pretty social guy, so I like to kind of get around to all the groups, whether it's the incoming freshmen or the old guys like me and Rick, or you and Parker and Baby G's house, and Sema, Runyon, and uh, Ranavardi and RJ's house. Just kind of getting well-rounded socially with the team, man. I mean, just like I said, it's a unique situation you got with the team, and being close to those guys on a different level really lets them trust you, right? Because you talk about being a leader. I mean, you're a captain on the team too, right? I mean, it's hard to listen to someone when they're saying, "Hey, you need to do this," when either I'm not doing it or like we don't have a very good relationship, right? It's like you got to build that respect out of the ring
Yep.
too. And so I like to think I did a decent job of that. I mean, I like to try to know guys on a personal level. I mean, that's one of my character traits. I like to know people on a personal level. So know as much as I can about them to get them to do the things that one they want to do, and that would best benefit our team. So no, I mean, hanging out with the boys and doing stuff with my dog probably is about it for hobbies. But now moving forward, man, I took a job in Bozeman, Montana. So I actually moved out there June 8th. Just settled on an apartment yesterday. So kind of cutting it close, but
Awesome.
getting her done. But I moved out there June 8th, and looking forward to what's to come, man. I mean, Mangelston Associates, they're a GC out of Bozeman, and I'm not sure what jobs I'll be on right away, but um, I'm ready to go be an absolute competitor in that field. I mean, that's one thing I think I am in my core is a high level competitor. So definitely can continue that in my professional career and in my intense hunting career, which is gonna pick up exponentially. You don't get to do much of that when you're wrestling. So.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be plenty of stuff to do out there for you, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like how you do anything is how you do everything. So, just to finish up, a few rapid fire questions. Your favorite place to eat in Cedar Falls?
Pablo's easy. Shout out to my boy
Favorite
Tanner.
sports team?
Favorite what?
Sports team.
Favorite like any sports team?
Yeah.
Texas
just
Longhorns
of all time, whatever.
Chicago Bears.
There you go. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh shoot. We'll go Tombstone. A little Western.
Favorite athlete?
Shoot, dude. Let's go with Brian Urlacher, dude. I love that dude until he retired, man. And still to this day, I mean, big fan of him. I got like 354 jerseys.
There you go. And then favorite home cooked meal?
Favorite home cooked meal? Dude, my mom makes the best white chili in the world, and I will die on that hill.
There you go. Some white chili. Oh man, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for tuning in to Elite Wrestling Club podcast. We hope you found today's episode valuable and enjoyed exploring Austin Yant. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay connected with us, here's what you can do. First, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get all the episodes. We release new content every Monday and you won't want to miss out. Second, we would truly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Your reviews help us reach more listeners like you and continue to provide valuable content. And finally, if you have any questions or topic suggestions or would just like to connect to us, you can find us on Elite Wrestling Club website and our social media pages. We love hearing from you guys and engaging with our amazing community. We have a bunch of episodes coming up. Just another great episode in the books with Austin Yant. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks to Austin.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.